So with Chingy coming around the corner, I think people are kind of forgetting about Anby, and I think secretly she's an S-rank character. And so today, guys, I'm going to be talking about a full build guide when it comes to Anby, her kit, and just everything about her. And so, hey guys, my name is Mr. Ocean, and without further ado, let's just get started. So let's kind of get started with Anby's skills and everything going on with her, just to kind of see what she has to offer in her entire kit. And so first off, let's start with her core skill. So starting off with her core passive, Fluctuating Voltage. When she launches a basic attack, special attack, or EX special attack, after the third hit of Anby's basic attack, gives her an extra 37.3% daze. And if you max it out, it will be 64%. And so what daze is going to do is the state of when the enemies are going to be stunned. And that's going to be the state entirely when you're doing her damage and doing her basic attacks or even her skill. That damage is going to be increased over time. So you want to make sure to increase your core enhancements as much as possible to get all the way up to that 64%. And following with that, she has her additional ability, which is known as Parallel Connection. When another character in your squad shares the same attributes or factions, Anby's dodge counter hits an enemy, she's going to gain an extra 7.2% energy. But however, this effect can only trigger once every 5 seconds. So it's kind of great to add energy since you want to constantly have her EX special skill constantly procced so you can accumulate more days onto the enemy. Next, we're moving on to her basic attacks. So her starting basic attack, Turbo Volt, whenever she unleashes a 4/ combo within the first 3 hits, it will accumulate physical damage. And upon the 4th hit, it's going to deal electrical damage. When it comes to constantly proccing electric damage with Anby, it's kind of going to be hard. So you want to have your basic attack combos as much as possible. So every time you're hitting that 4th hit, you're going to deal electro damage. And then after that, we also have the basic attack Thunderbolt. So after unleashing the 3rd hit of the basic attack, you can hold down or pause for a short while, and whenever you're pressing the attack or hold it, you can unleash a downward strike dealing electro damage. This is going to have anti-interrupt level being increased while using the skill. Like I said, with Turbo Volt, you're going to be able to have that 4th hit proc, but when you're able to hold down the button or you're able to release it at a certain time, you're going to be able to do electro damage. Next, we have her dodge. So like everybody else's, her rapid dodge is pretty similar to everybody else's, where she is going to be invulnerable in this state. To move on next, we're going to go with her dash attack, Taser Blast. And so whenever she's attacking with her dodge, she's going to be doing slashes to nearby enemies dealing physical damage. So it's just generally like how every character is, they have a dash attack being able to deal their physical damage normally. However, for her dodge counter, Thunderclap. So during the perfect dodge, she will do a slash attack in front of enemies dealing electro damage. And while in this state, she is going to be invulnerable. And that's also beneficial for her as well, because you do want to do perfect dodges with her to accumulate more electro damage, since that's what's carrying her and accumulating more days. Next, let's move on to her special attack. And so for her special attack, Fork Lightning, she'll unleash an upward slash dealing electro damage. This attack launches faster when used after the 3rd hit. And with basic attacks or basic attack Thunderclap, this will have anti-interrupt level increased while using the skill. Without any energy, you're essentially going to be slashing up towards the enemy, giving them a little bit more of a stun. So you're able to launch smaller enemies in the air, not so much larger enemies, but for smaller enemies, it's a little bit better to launch them so you could be able to stun them as much as possible and go through your chain attacks and combos. So moving on to her EX Lightning Bolt. So when you accumulate enough energy, she's going to unleash an upward slash dealing electric damage. And this attack will launch faster after again using the 3rd hit. And so with the basic attack or basic attack Thunderbolt, like it said, it's going to be beneficial to use your 3-hit combo, which is going to deal physical damage. But however, when you're able to use your EX special after, you're going to be able to accumulate it faster and proc it quicker to have that animation roll a lot faster for you. Now lastly, moving on to her chain attack or her ultimate. So for her chain attack, Electro Engine. So when a chain attack is triggered, she's going to unleash an upwards slash onto the enemies in a small area, dealing massive electro damage. Next to her ultimate, Overdrive Engine. So when she gains enough energy, she's going to unleash a powerful upward strike, dealing massive damage within a small area, followed up by several falling attacks of massive electro damage. This is accumulating a lot of days. Anby is a character, since she's a stun character, she's going to accumulate a lot of days onto the enemy. So using her ult and using her EX special skill is going to be beneficial for you in order to stun the enemy as quick as possible. And so now moving on to her W engines. And so to start off with, for an S rank, you want to have the Restraint with its W engine effect, Binding Chains. When an attack attack hits an enemy, damage and days from basic attacks increases by 12% or 8 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. This effect can trigger at most once during each skill. The duration of each stack is calculated separately. This weapon here, you're going to be accumulating more attack within your basic attacks, which as well is going to be beneficial because you're going to be using your Thunderbolt quite often since you want to have that 4th hit proc. And since you can stack it up to 5 times, you will gain as much up to 60% with your basic attacks alone. Moving on to A rank, and so for her signature weapon, Dharma Battery Mark II. And so for its W engine effect, in a flash of light, it increases electro damage by 24%. And when the equipper hits an enemy with a dodge counter or an assist attack, their energy is going to be increased by 27.5 for 8 seconds. That's really good for that because you want to have more electro damage, which you're going to be proccing a lot more, as well as being able to generate more energy since you can be able to use your EX skill is also beneficial for you. And moving on next is going to be the Precious Fossilized Core. And so for its W engine effect, Behemoth Hunter. So when the target's HP is lower than 50%, the equipper inflicts 16 more days to the target. And when the target's HP is no lower than 75%, this bonus is further increased by 16%. To better explain it, if the enemy is above 75%, you're increasing your days by 32%, which is really good. However, or no more lower than 50%, then it's going to be just only set to 16%. If it's 75 and above, you're getting 32%. Between 50 and 75, then you are going to have that 16%. And so lastly to add, we have the Vortex Arrow. Its W engine effect, Tsunami, the equipper's attack inflicts 12% more days onto the main target, which is good since you want to afflict days onto the enemy since that's what her main goal is. That's really beneficial. And that's only if you do not have these A ranks or the S ranks. And now moving on to her disc drives. And so for the set pieces that I would recommend for her would be Shockstar Disco, Thunder Metal, and Swing Jazz. So starting off with Shockstar Disco, for its 2-piece set, increases impact by 6%, and for the 4-piece, basic attacks, dash attacks, and dodge counters inflict 20% more days to the main target. This is where you're going to want to have this for its 4-piece set, since you're going to be accumulating more days, and adding that 20% is also beneficial, as well as adding that impact of that 6%. And so moving on to Thunder Metal. So for its 2-piece set, it increases electro damage by 10%. And for the 4-piece set, as long as the enemy in combat is shocked, the equipper's attack is increased by 28%. This is good for overall, in general, for any electro character. However, for Anby, I would want to recommend the 2-piece set. Since you're going to be increasing your electro damage, I think it's more beneficial for you to increase days rather than attack. Since with that, you want to accumulate doing that, being able to stun the enemy quicker, which that is kind of her main role and her main bread and butter when it comes to combat with the enemies. And so next, we have Swing Jazz. And so for its 2-piece, energy regen increases by 20%, and for its 4-piece set, launching a chain attack or ultimate increases all members' damage by 15% for 12 seconds. This is really good as well. Again, I would want to recommend the 2-piece set because having energy regen is going to be beneficial for Anby since she wants to proc her EX special as much as possible. So having more energy and being able to generate your EX skill quicker and faster is again better for you, and is also going to be great because you're going to be able to proc that as quick as possible. And so what I would recommend for exactly on the sets, so for the first, you would want 4-piece Shockstar Disco and a 2-piece Swing Jazz. The next set, it would be a 4-piece Shockstar Disco and Thunder Metal. So it's also depending on either or with Swing Jazz and Thunder Metal because you might lack on energy and you might have enough electro damage, or you might be lacking electro damage and you have enough energy. And to focus on its main stats, again, disc 4, you would want to get crit rate and crit damage. Since you want to proc as much damage as you want with her actual skills, her EX specials, and as well as her 4th hit when it comes to her Thunderbolt basic attack. And for disc 5, you want to have electro damage. Since she's primarily an electric dealing damage character, she's going to be dealing a lot of her days and a lot of her damage with electro. And as for disc 6, you want to get impact because impact is going to be increasing the rate as if you're going to daze the enemy. Again, impact is beneficial for her. That is probably the most important stat you want to prioritize for Anby herself. As for sub stats, things you want to pay attention to are crit rate, crit damage, attack, pen ratio. So those are beneficial subs that you want to go for, since with pen ratio, you're kind of diminishing the enemy's defense and penetrating it a lot better. With attack, you're just adding more attack to your attacks, being able to increase their numbers, and as well as crit rate and crit damage, being able to proc higher numbers when you're able to crit in general. So now moving on to BestBangboos. And for BestBangboos to start off, her go-to one that I would say is beneficial for her, since she's an electro character, is Plug Boo. However, you can also have a million. So with a million, since you have faction character, which is Anby, if you have another one set on the field, it will be able to accumulate a passive effect. And with this, BestBangboos chain attacks damage is going to be increased with a fewer enemies in combat up to a max of 45%. So this effect is going to be beneficial if there's not a lot of enemies on the field like a boss. Having a million is good since its chain attack is going to be increased up all the way to 45%. And again, another BestBangboos you can have is Electro Boo, since Electro Boo is again going to help build up that anomaly proc. Since Anby, when it comes to building up her anomaly as an electro character, and depending on how your team comp works, you want to help benefit that in being able to apply shock. And now moving on to team comps. And so for team comp, I would say for a pay to play team comp, you would want to go for Zuyan, Anby, and Nicole. As for free to play, you can go either Billy, Anby, or Nicole, as well as you can interchange Billy for Anton, having Anton, Anby, and Nicole. So it depends on interchangeable of depending on the enemy weaknesses as well, or how the synergy works with all of them. Lastly, let's talk about her cinemas. So talking about Cinema 1, Rapid Charge Mode. So when the fourth hit of Anby's basic attack hits an enemy, her energy generation rate is increased by 12% for 30 seconds. Being able to use your fourth hit, which procs electro damage, you're going to be able to gain 12% more energy. However, it's going to be only intervals of 30 seconds. So you want to keep eye of that and you want to keep note of that to kind of interchange and being able to see where you need to build up more energy while you're on the field. But that's really good, being able to accumulate more energy since you want to be using your EX special a lot more. Moving on to Cinema 2, Precision Discharge. When basic attack Thunderbolt hits a stunned enemy, its damage is increased by 30%. And when Anby's EX special skill hits an enemy that is not stunned, the daze inflicted is increased by 10%. Whenever the enemy is stunned, being able to use her Thunderbolt will increase the damage by 30%. If that character isn't stunned, their daze is going to be increased. So they're both going to be benefiting off of hand. Since you're being able to daze the enemy quicker, having that 10% is going to help you out, and as well as that 30% once the enemy is dazed is also good for you. This is a really good cinema. However, I think personally it is not the best one so far. Moving on to Cinema 4, Conducting Charge. When Anby launches a chain attack or uses her ultimate, off-field electro agents recover 3 energy. For every 12% energy generation rate Anby has, it recovers an additional 2 energy up to a maximum of 6. It seems like so far with this cinema, if she has a total of 36% energy generation rate, she can add up to 6 energy for the following characters that are electro. It's really good as well. It also depends, it's kind of more finite depending on which characters that you have on the field with this cinema. And then moving on to Cinema 6, Changing Field. When Anby uses her EX special attack, she gains 8 stacks of charges, a max up to 8 charges. When she hits an enemy with her basic attack or dash attack, 1 stack of charge is consumed, which increases that attack by 45%. This is really good. Being able to have these charges when using your EX special, which you're going to use quite often, you're going to have constant stacks. And if you build enough energy generation rate, you can be able to have these stacks constantly. Adding 45% damage to that is really good. And for this, I would say this is a really good cinema for her, if not the best one so far for her, since she's going to be doing a whole lot more damage. I would highly recommend getting Cinema 6 if you want to invest into Anby. And so hopefully this guide helped you guys to build Anby and shape her the way that you guys want. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like and comment down below, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification to be notified whenever I post a new video. And to again point out that over 98% of you guys are not subscribed. And if you guys enjoyed my content and you guys check out my channel quite often, just make sure to subscribe. It will let you guys know and be notified whenever I upload a new video, and it helps out a lot. It's free and it's not going to hurt. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys later.